EA College Football 25 has released their list of the most difficult places to play in college football. Let's talk about it.
You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the War Report Gaming. EA has released their top 10 toughest places to play in this year's much-anticipated College Football 25 game. Dustin Smith and Blake Lane here with you guys to talk about it. And Blake, let's jump right into it, brother. When you saw this list, what was your initial reaction, man?
Joke. Joke. I did not like it. I thought it was a joke. I laughed at it. Beaver Stadium at 6 is insane. Tiger Stadium not being at number 1 is insane. Kyle Field at number 1 is just diabolical. I mean, I don't know. That's just out of this world crazy. Bryant Denny being at 2 is out of this world crazy. That's more like a business setting, in my opinion, not a hostile environment, tough place to play. The only reason I think you can make the case for it being a tough place to play is because of the product on the field. And I think a lot of people get that mixed up when we talk about environments and stadiums, and we're like, that's a tough place to play. Yeah, it's been tough there for the last 15 years because they've had countless number of NFL Pro Bowlers on their roster. All right, so that them being at 2 is insane. Seeing the Swamp and Ben Hill Griffin at 10, that's another one that just kind of scrambled me for a minute because I was like, hey, I get Florida hasn't been the Urban Meyer Florida. They weren't the old ball coach Florida, Steve Spurrier. All right, but to have them at 10, mind blowing. I don't know who put this list together, and I would love to find out because I think it's a group of people that might not watch a lot of college football or have even been to a lot of stadiums in college football. There's a couple of stadiums that I have been to that aren't on this list, so I had to put them on my own list, Dustin. And I just thought this was a wild list, like 7, 8, and 9. Yikes! I think you could make a case for Oklahoma. Camp Randall, I think they're honorable mention, but not top 10. Not top 10. And Doak Campbell, you got the war chant down there, but I've watched a couple folks come in there and lay it on you. Jacksonville State did it, so I don't know, man. It was just a wild list to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, kind of splitting hairs with some of these, but like you said, Kyle Field at number 1, and then looking at like 9 and 10, having Florida State ahead of Florida is wild. It's wild. Now, and I've been to a couple games at Doak Campbell. Living here in the Panhandle, I've had a lot of friends that went to Florida State and went to visit them and stuff back in the day. And man, I've been in there for some big games, and I've been in there for some not so big games. And I mean, you can, to be fair, any stadium is going to be more hype for the bigger game, but it just kind of seems like if Florida State's not really, if they're not good, you know what I mean? Like one stadium, and I'm not saying that South Carolina should be in the top 10. I think they have South Carolina at 14th, which is kind of which is proper for me. I think South Carolina kind of belongs in 14, but I'm using that as an example of a fan base that's going to bring it no matter what. Like I know if I turn on a game versus South Carolina or at South Carolina, their fans are involved no matter what. If they could be 3 and 6, Williams-Brice is going to be loud. I just don't necessarily get that vibe from Florida State. When they're good and it's packed and it's a Saturday night and Miami's in the building and they get that war chant going, okay, then it's number 9. Yeah. But every Saturday, I just don't know. And Kyle Field, we're going to give our top 10s here in a minute. I don't even have Kyle Field in my top 10. It's top 15. It's loud. But you talk about with Bama being number 2, you talk about product on the field. That's kind of my issue with this list, Blake, is that it's all over the place. If you had if you were saying, hey, it's just all factors considered, just the most difficult place to go in and win. Well, then, yeah, Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State are going to be your top 3. Like if you're doing that, yep. They're the most talented teams and they have loud crowds. But that's obviously not your criteria. with Texas A&M at number
Yep.
one. They haven't been very good lately. So you kind of cancel that whole line of thinking right out the gate. And so I just don't really know where they were going. Not having Neyland Stadium in here. Like, did you guys watch when they threw the field goal post in the river?
Yeah.
And look, Tennessee went through a long stretch of mediocrity. Their fans were there, son.
Yep.
They were there and they were loud. And anytime Tennessee won a couple games, they were there screaming, "We're back. We're back." And then I mean, you see the Auburn stuff behind me, so I get it. Kinda like a Homer. But Jordan Hare not being here, and then let's see, go to their list. They've got Jordan Hare at 14. Okay, so it's Auburn's at 14, and then Williams-Brice is at 15.
Hmm.
Look, criminal, bro, criminal.
Yep.
Look up what Joe Burrow said about it. Go look up what it's consistent theme. Every year at SEC Media Days, they ask players, "Hey, what's the most difficult place to play?" You're gonna get Tiger Stadium and Jordan Hare Stadium every single time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's every year. You know, you can pull the clips, go look them up. It's every single year, and everyone kind of knows, man. Like you go back to the last two Iron Bowls where Auburn has been 6-5 going into both of them, and Alabama has been playoff bound. And it just like Auburn lost the one in triple overtime, and then you get blown out at Bryant Denny the next year.
Hmm.
And then you come back this year and you give up a Hail Mary on like you gave them the game basically. You fumbled the ball in a kick return. You weren't able to run the clock out, and then you gave up a Hail Mary from 4th and goal from the 31-yard line. Like you were in it because of the stadium,
Yep.
those atmospheres, Auburn fans showing up, giving it their all. Same thing with Georgia this year. Like people, like me and you were at Auburn versus Penn State a couple years ago.
Yep.
Until that game got out of hand in the fourth quarter, my ears were ringing, and we were getting blown out. And the fans still hung in there, man. So I know I'm going to sound like a homer with that one, but I think and Bama fans came to Auburn's defense. Bama
Yeah.
fans were in the comments of the post saying, "No, Jordan Hare here is crazy, bro." So yeah, this list is all over the place, man. And the jump around at Camp Randall, I love it. You
Yeah.
know, it's cool, really cool tradition. And they're definitely their fans show up. They're a great fan base. But number 7, I just don't know, man. Like the swamp's tough now. The swamp's tough.
Do you
I've been in the games in the swamp too. They get down.
do you think they were trying to like kind of throw in like the Big Ten, ACC, maybe
Mm.
give try to give each conference a little love? I know the Big 12's not on this list with Oklahoma coming into the SEC now, but maybe just trying to like kind of be a little fair, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's a good point because there is a good amount of all the conferences in here. And then when we give our list, I know we're going to be pretty SEC heavy.
Well, SEC brings the juice. They bring the
Right.
atmospheres. It's the best conference in college football, anywhere you want to slice it. But also, you see a lot of Big Ten on this list because they're the second best. So
Mm.
I do see that there. But that's why I had to ask that, because maybe they didn't want to be like totally one sided. And then everybody from every other conference be like, "Oh, this is a bias list, SEC bias." That's one of the things that popped up in my mind.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do some. That's a good point, man. I'm sure we'll do some pods too, reacting to their ratings that came out today
Yeah.
on like their defensive ratings, offensive ratings, and all that kind of stuff. Those have been pretty controversial too. So it's I don't know, man. I do, I know that there'll be updates and stuff, and this will change throughout the year. And once you kind of get a year or two into your dynasty mode, it'll be changing on your list and all, on your individual dynasty mode anyway. It'll be kind of going off of the team successes and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, man, it's that's just very interesting. So Blake, let's give our top 10, man. And I'll go first. And to me, they didn't miss too big here. They got Tiger Stadium in the top 3, but I know that me and you have both watched our Auburn Tigers play in Death Valley. I actually lived on LSU's campus for a little bit when my best friend was going there, and I've witnessed a lot of games in Tiger Stadium. It's number 1, brother. It's number 1, and there's not really a question about it. I got Beaver Stadium at number 2. Penn State brings it. I got Neyland at number 3.
Mhm.
I've got Jordan Hare Stadium, Auburn, number 4. I've got Ben Hill Griffin, Florida, at 5. I've got Georgia at 6, and I'm going to give Georgia this. For all their success, their fans still bring it. And it's not an Auburn fan taking a shot at Bama. I just think that they've been good for 15 years. So there's an entire generation of Bama fans that don't know anything but success.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when you show up to every game expecting to get W's, like you're just not necessarily going to have that juice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, talk about like Neyland, like it's had that juice because Tennessee fans are hungry. Talk about South Carolina, and I don't have like I said, I think they're properly rated at they're at 15, but their fans are bringing the juice because they're hungry. Penn State, they haven't won a natty in a long time. They feel like they can't get over that Ohio State, Michigan hump. They're hungry, so it just kind of adds to that. But all that being said, I do have Georgia at 6 because they've been pretty successful, and it's still a really tough place to play.
Mm-hmm.
I got Ohio State at number 7. I do have Bryant Denny at 8. Like it's still, it's still packed. They're still really loud, despite what I just said. I got Austin at number 9, and then I'm gonna go with Oklahoma at number 10.
Mm.
That's my top 10.
It's a solid list. It's a solid list, and I think our top three with LSU,
Yeah.
yeah, it's exactly the same. So Beaver Stadium, that's one thing about this list that EA released with Beaver Stadium at 6. I just don't know how we got there. Like
Right.
that's one of the things that I would have loved to hear an explanation on is how do you take that atmosphere? And I know a couple of Auburn fans that made that trip a couple years ago when Brian Harson and
Mm.
the Auburn Tigers went up there, and it was a pretty damn competitive game. Come down to the final possession, right? So, and that was a whiteout
Yeah.
and just electric, all night long. And then they come to Auburn. We were there, and they even brought a crowd all the way down to
Oh
Alabama,
yeah, they
and
showed
they
up.
were
They showed
electric.
up.
They showed up. Those Penn State
Took over.
fans, yeah, they're a dang good fan base. So I got them at 2, 3. Who we got at 3, Dustin? My mind went blank.
Neyland.
Nealon,
You got Neyland.
Nealon.
Neyland.
Look, how Nealon isn't in this top 10, I I don't know. Baffles me, to be honest, because I've been to a Tennessee game inside of Neyland Stadium, and it was one of the coolest, most loudest, insane environments that I've ever been in. And
Mm.
for the past what since the mid 2000s, they haven't been great. All right, so they've been super mediocre. They've had a couple of years where they win 9 games here, 10 games here, but super mediocre, and they still show up. Baker Mayfield, they asked him, they're like, "Man, what's one of the like the most just brutal places to play?" And he said, "Dude, when we went to Neyland Stadium, that was insane, insane." So mad respect to Tennessee fans. They show up and show out. Uh, I got 4. I got Ben Hill at 4. The Swamp is just electric. Everything they do, they constantly show up. They've kind of been in that same boat since Urban Meyer, where they haven't been great. They've had a couple years here and there, where they go to a SEC championship game, but it hasn't been consistent, right? So they continue to show up and show out. And I just think that 2019 game against Auburn really put it over the top for me. Just to hear that crowd noise and just to basically see videos from my brother of that stadium, being inside that stadium and just seeing that place go nuts. I mean, my brother told me that it felt like they were about to fall through. And he's like, I turned to my buddy DG to speak, and we couldn't hear each other. We were just like, hey, wait till after the game. Um, Insane environment. At 5, I got Jordan Hare. I think one of the most ridiculous places to play, one of the most nastiest fan bases, just to get after you at a college football environment. Um, Never easy to go there and win. It starts from the flight of the eagle around the stadium, and it doesn't stop. And I think one reason why Auburn might not have been in this top 10 is because we do talk about, you know, some people getting beat on their home field, and maybe New Mexico State played a factor in that. I think it's
That's fair.
very fresh and very relevant on people's minds, and that's what you hear a lot on social media is, oh, well, they just lost to New Mexico State. So maybe the people that put this list together said, well, we can't really put Auburn on there. But ask Carson Beck, hey, what's one of the toughest places you've ever had to play? He said, that Jordan Hare Stadium was different. All right. He said that place was just unbearable for 60 minutes. And you ask people when you get in this conversation, you say, well, why is Jordan Hare? They say, Blake, why is Jordan Hare in your list? It's not because I'm an Auburn fan. It's because when I watch big games, I watch Bryce Young have to go 99 yards on the last possession to tie the game up against a Brian Harsin coached Auburn team. That wasn't because of
Right.
talent, folks.
No.
That was because of the juice inside of Jordan Hare. All right. This past season, Auburn wasn't in that game due to talent. Auburn had some special players on the defensive side of the ball, but not near what Alabama had. Not near what Georgia had. Georgia had to have a Brock Bowers moment to beat Auburn and Jordan Hare this year. Had to make a fourth down stand late in the fourth quarter to beat Auburn and Jordan Hare Stadium. That's why it's on my list, is because no matter what Auburn fans have been through, even the 3 losing seasons, they're kind of like Florida fans. They continue to show up at every moment they can at their home place. And Florida, the swamp. I had a buddy text me the other day. He said, Blake, how do you put Florida that high on your list? That place isn't intimidating anymore. It's not. Ask Cam Rising how intimidating it was. Utah was getting national championship chatter. Hey, that Utah team from 2 years ago, they could win the national championship. They walk in week 1 to the swamp, get beat. Get beat. Was that Florida team any good?
Nope.
No. I think they got beat by 35 against Georgia in the cocktail party.
Right.
So those 2 stadiums, they really stick out to me, man. And look, number 6, I got Autzen. And the reason I have Autzen is I took a trip in November up there, and I wanted to experience it. It was a bucket list trip, Dustin. And the reason I got them at 6 is because I went and watched them play Caleb Williams. I experienced the crowd noise. I experienced the stadium, how it was put together and built, and how they trap the noise inside of that
Yeah.
small space. It only seats like 60,000 people, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, no way this place gets that loud. It gets crazy, man. It gets crazy loud, like insane loud. I don't think the environment is in front of the top 5 that I mentioned, but to only seat 60,000 people and to go off like that, it's on up in my top 10. It was a crazy, crazy place. It was such a fun experience. And it's definitely something that I think everybody needs to go see. It's different vibes up there, and it's really fun. So that's one thing I also like witnessing and seeing is like how do other fan bases react to like tailgating and things like that, Dustin. That's one thing I
Mm.
like traveling the country and going to these stadiums. 7, I have Ohio Stadium. Look, it speaks for itself. They dominate college football. Their fans show up. They're top 3 in the country, man. Like just pure domination with talent and playoff appearances and all that good stuff. They just continue to pump NFL talent out, and it gets loud. It gets crazy. I know Michigan got them there the last time, but hey, when that's the only game that you lose at your place, I think that speaks volumes for how crazy that place gets. So the shoe is it's a place. It's a ruckus environment. At 8, I got Kyle Field. I'm not a fan of the male cheerleaders, Dustin, but I think it's kind of weird. I think it's creepy, but
It's strange.
yeah, yeah. Like, look, I guess that kind of come off a little wrong. The male cheerleaders are a thing, but it's just the way that they go about the jokes before the games and all. That's what I mean.
We know what I think everybody knows what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, it's just the jokes aren't funny and all of that stuff, and like the hands and the doing all, like, it's just weird. It's just weird to me. But as far as like, yeah, bro, it's so weird. But as far as like atmosphere, environment, tough place to play, man. That 12th man is just brutal. It's brutal, and I know Auburn's had a little success there. Other teams have had success there, but when I think of top 10 crazy environments, when I look at Kyle Field, I'm like, dang, man, that's going to be tough. We were actually hoping to play them at 11 a.m. this past season. And when we got it, we were like, yes, we don't have to play them at night. Alabama went in there a couple years ago and all that good stuff. So, really, really tough place to play. At number 9, I got Bryant Denny. And the reason I got Bryant Denny is because it's still an elite atmosphere. It's still 102,000 people in a stadium going crazy, singing Dixieland Delight. They're cheering. They're at the top, man. Sweet Home Alabama and all this. It's a crazy environment. Now, I thought 2 was wild just because I think there's so many better stadiums, but Bryant Denny at 9. I know the product on the field too plays a little part in that number 2, like I said earlier. So that's why I kind of leveled it out a little bit. I like where you had them in your list as well. And then 10, I got Memorial Stadium, the Clemson Tigers. I know Dabo can be a little cringy at times. All right, I get it. I do like him running down the hill and all that. I got a take on that, but at the end of the day, Clemson fans, they stand the entire game. They're there. They're making noise constantly. Like, tough place to play. Auburn went up there a couple years ago, a few years back. Jarrett Stidham and all that good stuff, and just a crazy environment. Didn't stop, and it helped the Clemson defense dominate the Auburn offensive line that night, right? So,
Yeah.
insane environment. The only thing I don't really rock with is like rushing the field after every victory. Like, that's kind of weird to me too, but it's a thing they do, and it's a thing that they've kind of stuck with and trademarked and all that good stuff. So, I like Memorial at 10. That's my top 10, Dustin.
Yeah, good list, man. Before we get out of here, I do want to say Kyle Field will be number 1 for one day this year. And that's when the Texas Longhorns come in there. Boy, that place is going to be on fire.
Yeah,
And if you think that what happened with the baseball coach is not going to manifest itself from that crowd that night, you are mistaken. I
yeah.
cannot wait. That is the game that outside of my favorite team that I have circled as the must watch of the college football season.
Mm.
So look, we will continue to react to these lists as EA continues to drop them. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one. We're out of here.